Hey everyone, in this video we're going to come back to Ritchie's Fabulae Faciles and look at the Perseus story. So specifically we're going to look at part 7, which is called A Human Sacrifice. Now at this point in the story we've been learning about Perseus, his upbringing, his mother. He's already gone on his adventure to kill Medusa, which he's done, and on the way back you were seeing that he had stopped in the land of Ethiopia. And last section, right, in part 6, we learned that the daughter of the king, Andromeda, is basically being sacrificed to a sea monster because her father had offended Neptune or Poseidon, right? So that's where we pick up the story, when the father, the king, had already set a date of when he's going to basically sacrifice his daughter. So the story starts with tum rex diem certam dixit et omnia parala. Now here we have the rex, the king, right? And in this phrase, you have diem certam dixit. It literally means he said, right, a certain day. But a better way to translate it would probably be he set a certain day. It means he's choosing the day that he's going to sacrifice his daughter is kind of the idea. So any version of that, he said, he set. Another translation might even be like he appointed a particular day. That's the idea. But either way, diem certam is your direct object. That's what he's appointing, the certain day, right? Meaning he's going to sacrifice Andromeda. And omnia, right, and everything, parawit, he prepared. So, and he prepared everything. Omnia here is the substantive, right? So we got everything ready for the sacrifice. Then you have ubi ea dies venet. Andromeda ad litus deducta est, et in conspectu omnium ad rupem alligata est. So you have ubi, when, right? When that day, ea dies, when that day came, venet, Andromeda, right? Again, which is the daughter, deducta est, she was led. It's perfect tense passive voice. So she was led to the shore, ad litus, right? And in conspectu omnium, this means in the sight. The conspectu is really like the sight or view, you might say. In the sight or in the view of everyone, alligata est ad rupem. She was tied, right? Alligata, think ligare, right? To kind of bind someone. She was bound or tied up, ad rupem, to a rock. So the idea here is they're going to tie her to a rock near the shore so that the sea monster can come up and eat her, right? That's why they're ad litus, down by the shore. So they're getting everything ready, for a sacrifice, right? Which is the whole idea. Then you have omnes fatum eas deplorabant, nec lacrimas tenebant. So everyone, omnes, right? Deplorabant means they were sad over, they were crying literally over the fatum, the fate, eas, of her. So one way to parse is to kind of say they were weeping for, you might say, or they were really sad over, deplorabant. And again, imperfect is implying the continuous past action. Fatum est, her fate, meaning that the citizens understand this is really sad, right? Andromeda doesn't deserve this, but it has to be done. And then you have nec, meaning and not, right? Tenebant, they were not holding. You might even say like holding back, lacrimas, tears, right? So they're crying is the idea. They're not holding back tears. They're just crying over her fate is kind of the idea. Then you have at subito, do monstrum exspectant, Perseus accurrit. So you have, but suddenly, right, subito, while expectant, while they're waiting for, right, it doesn't mean they necessarily see it yet. It literally means they're looking out for. So they're expecting, right? When they're waiting for the monster, the monstrum, Perseus accurrit, right? Perseus shows up. And again, accurrit has that tense, the meaning of like ran into, right? Arrived is kind of one way to do it. It's got the running cure in it. So it's saying that Perseus showed up, right? He ran into him. He arrived, right? He probably flew. He's wearing his magic sandals, right? So just when they're waiting for the monster, again, right at the most heroic moment, Perseus shows up. Okay, and you have et ubi lacrimas vidit causam doloris quaerit. So, and when he saw, it's talking about Perseus, vidit, he saw the lacrimas, the tears, right? So he sees everyone crying. He quaerit, he asked, causam doloris. He asked, or kind of sought out what was the cause, right? The causam doloris of their grief, of their sadness, right? So he asked why everyone's crying is the idea. Perseus shows up, he doesn't know what's going on, and he tries to find out, what's the cause of all their sadness, right? Why is everyone crying? Then you have Illi rem totam exponunt et puellam demonstrant. demonstrant, rather. So they, Illi, meaning the citizens, they exponent, they explain the rem totam, the entire situation. Again, totam here means like total, entire. Rem is one of those words that often gets translated as like thing. It's kind of a catch-all word. It probably means situation, really, here in the best sense. So they explain it to him, and they demonstrant. They point out the puellam, the girl, right? Meaning Andromeda. They show him the girl. So they say to him, this is what's happening, and look over there. There's poor Andromeda about to get eaten by the sea monster. Then you have dum haec gerontor, fremitus terribilis auditor. So here, gerontor, one way to translate it, gere, is to say like these things were happening. Sometimes you see wage. I think the best way to translate this is to say, wow, these things are happening is kind of the idea, while they're waging these things. So again, any version of that will get you there. While these things are happening, are going on, maybe is a good way to do it. Then you have a fremitus terribilis, right? So this fremitus, which is really like a roar, is kind of a good way to do it. It's talking about the sea monster, basically. This roar terribilis, this terrible roar, terrible sound, right? I think roar kind of gets at the idea. This terrible roar auditor is heard, right? Meaning they heard it. Okay, so while they're explaining to Perseus, like, hey, this is what's happening. There's Andromeda, right? While all this is going on, haec gerontor, this is where you have the terrible roar is heard, because here comes the sea monster, right? Then you have simul monstrum horribili specie procul conspicitur. Okay, so at the same time, right, the monster, and here we have the ablative horribili specie. It's talking about him and his face, really. Saying him, its face, I guess. So you could translate this as the monster with this horrible, horrible face, or horrible in appearance is kind of one way to do it. And remember, this is actually the same description that was given for Medusa, right, and the Gorgons. So the same thing, this horrible, hideous kind of sea monster. Again, you could even translate this of horrible appearance, right? Conspicitur is seen, right, and procul in the distance, right? So it's it's coming towards the shore is the idea. So the monster is seen. Then we have Eius conspectus timorem maximum omnibus iniecit. Right? So the sight of it, Eius conspectus, right? Again, conspectus means like the view or the sight. So the sight of it. And then we have timorem maximum, like great fear. Now, that's the direct object of iniecit, which means like threw upon. So you might even be saying like the sight of it threw on everyone great fear. I think a better way to translate might even be like inspired, right? But inspired great fear for everyone, right? Meaning that anyone who saw the sight of this sea monster was terrified, right? They had this maximum timorem, right? Because they're terrified of the sea monster. Then you have monstrum magna celeritate ad litus contendit, iamque ad locum apropinquabat ubi puella stabat, right? So the monster, right? It came to the shore ad litus, right? Magna celeritate, with the greatest speed, or with great speed. And again, contended here means like it hurried, right? So it hurried to the shore, you might say, with great speed, right? It's charging up to get Andromeda. Then you have iamque ad locum apropinquabat, right? And it was approaching, right, to the place, ad locum, the place where the puella, meaning Andromeda, the girl, was standing, right? Because she's tied to a rock. And again, iamque here, you could see now, you could even say now, right? Now it was approaching. But in this section, you see, right? The monster doesn't know Perseus is there. It knows, apparently it knows it's time for the sacrifice, right? The day's been appointed. So just like it does, right? All the time, it comes up to the shore, and here it comes to eat Andromeda, right? And you're going to see Perseus is going to react to all this. And of course, because he's the hero, he's going to save the day. Okay. But the idea is the sea monster is finally here. Andromeda is being offered as the sacrifice. Perseus is seeing all this, and we're about to see kind of how he reacts. Okay. So this section isn't too bad. It's not overly long. It's just giving you the background of when they actually set up the sacrifice of Andromeda. Okay, so just keep working on the Latin. There's nothing too crazy here. And again, I'd highly recommend with all these sections that you read them out loud first, right? Try reading them without necessarily sitting and going word for word translating. But the more you practice this, right, you're going to catch on. It's using a lot by this point into part 7 of the story. We've seen a lot of repetition of phrases and verbs. So hopefully it's getting easier and easier to read. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. I'll be happy to help you however I can. But otherwise, keep practicing and you should be fine. Good luck.